What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Deion Sanders is in Colorado. So what does that mean? That means his son, Shedeur Sanders, is coming over and going to be playing quarterback for his dad. And we're going to do that today. We're going to talk about a little bit of Shedeur Sanders and what you can expect from him out there in Colorado with his dad and what that can bring for the team. So let's get into it. So we got another film breakdown this week. We appreciate you guys on this channel. Hit that like and subscribe button down there. And let's talk about what Sanders' outlook's going to be. And we're going to talk about him as a prospect and where it comes from. So just to talk about what he was in high school. So people forget that he was a four-star kid in high school. The 247 Sports had him as QB 26, 6'1", 198. He was actually going to FAU. So before his dad got this job in 2020, when we're talking about where he signed, he was going to FAU to play with Lane Kiffin when he was at FAU. So like that is kind of like his legacy, what it was going to be. And then he goes to Jackson State and he becomes this kid that we're going to mention as being a very, very solid prospect. So let's dive into his stats and just talk about what he is. So those of you that are Colorado fans, hey, what could this kid be? This is what he's done the last 2 years, and he's developed considerably. So let's look at 2021, 272 for 413, 65% completion percentage, 3,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And this last year, he improved those numbers a little bit. He sees his completion percentage go up, and we see a development. So one of the key things about Sanders, when we talk about what he's done, he's put on weight. So in high school, 195-ish. So he's put on that 215. He looks the frame. He has it. Then he kind of improves it on that completion percentage. 70% his second year. 3,300 yards. He kind of improves his touchdown to interception ratio. So we are seeing improvement there, right? And the one thing that we're going to notice about his production, we don't see that rushing upside production that we usually see with quarterbacks in terms of like what we like to see for fantasy. But he does have that throwing ability, and like we said, he does come in with a high recruiting pedigree. Some people will just say, "Oh, he's Sanders' son." That's not what we're talking about here. Like he was a recruited player, 4-star kid on 247 Sports. So that's something to keep in mind when we talk about him as a prospect, like what he is going forward. Like he was a very good quarterback prospect coming out, right? 26th ranked quarterback. We see guys like this pop off all the time. And so when you're thinking of like, oh, what can he be at Colorado? Just think he was getting recruited by D1 schools, right? So that is the area going there. Now let's talk about what his strengths and weaknesses are. First, strengths, I think one thing that I think stands out to me is his maturity. And when we're talking about this, like being Deion's son can't be easy. And in going and playing for him and what he's been able to do at Jackson State, that shows a system and maturity. And if you're watching like some of the YouTube channel stuff that they have, they follow him around, like he does have that level of like leadership. And I think that even though like, we saw Deion's, press conference or whatever in his team meeting, said, "Hey, I'm bringing the son. That's my quarterback. He's going to compete." Like Sanders comes in with competitiveness, but also like he's going to go compete for that job. This isn't like it's getting handed to him. He competed and he's going to compete well. And I think that that's going to go over well in that locker room when they have a little bit of turnover. I think Sanders can lead him to that. And when we're talking about as a prospect of Colorado, like the Colorado quarterback play has been awful. When we're looking at just Colorado in general, what they've been the last few seasons, they have not been good. Like we highlight them in our manifesto as being one of the worst offensive teams in college football last year. And they were, right? When we're just seeing what they've been able to do, they have not been good. And so he's going to come in with that maturity, ready to go, kind of have that, right? And we're just looking at the stats for Colorado overall. JT Stroud was their best thrower this year, 1,200 yards passing. I mean, what are we talking about here in this? Like, he's going to step in and be that. We've seen that production. So you saw the numbers. His production's gone up. There's 3,000 yards. I mean, he's the best production on the team, right? Already at Colorado. And we've seen kind of his been able to do that. And they've leaned on him. Like Jackson State leaned on him. We saw those attempts, over 400 attempts in both seasons. So production-wise, not a concern. Maturity rise for me, not a concern. And in this development, he's improved as a passer. Like when you're looking at his high school tape, there's a lot of little things that you see from him. Like he has improved it. I think his arm strength has improved. Like we're not going to highlight those things on here, but I do think like every facet of his game, even though we're going to talk about some of the weaknesses and things he can work on, we got to highlight the things that he does very well. And I think that he has shown that he has poise. I think he's very good in the pocket. I think his arm strength is there. I think it's enough. I think for a team that needs something like this is an infusion of talent, and he does that really well. Extends plays. We're going to watch a little bit of film here in a second. Those are the things that he does well. Now, some things that like, hey, what can he work on? What do we see like in terms of like, I hate saying weaknesses, but just things that, he still does need to develop. I think his mechanics are a little weird when we're talking about his release. Like, you're going to see that on the tape. Like, it's just kind of how he throws the ball, right? So I do think that sometimes the touch can be in there. So when we're looking at where that touch comes from, I think he can throw it up. And we saw instances on film, and I've been breaking it down the last week, where you see him kind of just throw things up because they had the most talented roster. Jackson State has the most talented roster in that league, in the SWAC, and what we saw from them. And so that's where I get a little bit nervous. Like, he's going to have to develop it and get into that ability to get that release out, get that ball out velocity wise in those Pac-12 defenses, which aren't like necessary barn burners, right? But against Utah and those other areas, we haven't seen that level of talent. So I think one way is to watch him this year is he's going to adjust to that release. Is he going to adjust to that play speed, right? That defensive speed there. His mechanics going to get a little bit of a bump. But good news for him is that he's going to get Colorado's head coach Sean Lewis as his offensive coordinator. And Sean Lewis, he kind of runs this kind of shotgun veer that's going to fit him very well. Dion was smart. He picked a very good offensive coordinator for his position here. And Sean Lewis is one of the best coaches in the MAC. When we're talking about what he was able to do in that offense, he kind of runs like an Art Briles lights offense. So when we're thinking of like, how does that fit him? It fits Sanders perfectly as a quarterback. Like, and I think that's one thing I want to highlight. When those release mechanics stuff comes into, he probably understands, Dion understands his son's kind of where does he need to get worked on. Dude, Sean Lewis is the perfect hire for this. And that's why I was so excited for him when he came out. And also, hey, from a fantasy perspective, dual threat is not really his thing. I think he can extend plays. I think he has good functional athleticism, but dual threat wise, like, hey, he's going to be rushing for 200-300 yards. I don't see that necessarily with Sanders, right? Now, let's take the tape. Let's watch the game that we kind of highlighted here. So you're going to see him get out here quick, and you're going to notice this about his release. So I hope one thing that you do notice is like, hey, there is a little bit of a wonky release. I think it's there. Again, sets up in the pocket, gets the ball out quick. Like, those are good throws. Like, those two throws right there. Hey, he gets the ball to his receiver. He's able to get it quick, and you guys get that release. Again, you're going to see it here. A little bit on the run, gets it out there. And I think one thing that I did highlight is, like, he let his guys make plays. Like, he wasn't one of those guys that kind of made chances. He went up and got it. He had some great throws, to different, different guys all over the field. And so when those are the types of things you'd like to see, again, processes well, stays in there, gets the ball up, gets it out to his receiver quick. Like, those are the things. He lets his receiver go and make plays, right? And then you saw in the first half, 18 for 23 touchdowns. And again, you saw this a lot when I was watching tape in terms of what he's able to do out there on the field. Like, he has those targets that you'd like to see, and he got him to his guys to let him go kind of make plays. Again, steps up, gets it out quick. Like, I will say one thing that I think you do also want to see development is that the one read kind of gets it out. Sometimes he does do that a little bit, locks onto his guys, and he's able to lock on the guys because of the defenses that he was playing. So we'd like to see that improve, right? Hey, can you kind of read defenses go through? But like I said, that offense. But then here, again, not necessarily dual threat, but he is able to kind of break tackles, get out to the outside, and then continue on and kind of make plays, right? So that off-platform stuff, the off-structure stuff there, then gets it out quick. He is just a very solid quarterback prospect. And again, I have watched Pac-12 football my whole life. I live on the West Coast. I live out here in California. I've watched Colorado play many a times. They don't have a quarterback like this. They haven't had a quarterback like this for a long time. And he's going to be able to give them that. Like, he's going to give him that area, even if he has this. So again, gets it up, gets to make plays. Like, that's going to have a little bit more touch with a real defense, right? So those are the things you like to work on. Again, he's not afraid to kind of get it over the middle. I think that they're going to put him in very good situations to succeed. And I think, where is that talent coming from? And I do think that he's going to get guys in the transfer portal, right? So I think that there's going to be guys in that transfer portal that come to Colorado. We're already seeing rumors of like, hey, who's going to be there? I know that Colorado is going to loosen up the requirements there. So they're going to get Sanders weapons. And I think if they give him weapons, he's going to succeed exponentially, right? And if he doesn't have to do too much, I think Sanders is going to be very good. And we saw those numbers. Now, let's talk about outlook for him. Like, when we're looking at just Colorado and what they're going to do, I think, already they're already lowing up, right? So there's portal threats out there. There's people talking about, there's top 25 available players. Like, hey, who are you guys going to get in this portal? I think Sanders overall, like, in terms of just Devy, he's not a Devy relevant player to me, but he is a C2C relevant player. I think you have to go out there and try to get some C2C relevant like areas in there. Now, in a recent mock, I was in the 18th to 20th round. You can get there. Travis Hunter maybe going there, right? I'll stand at Kevin Coleman. Wide receiver could be going there. We're going to see guys go get there. As the portal opens, we're going to see talent. So keep an eye on that talent when they get it. And I think that there's going to be there's going to be dudes that go and play for him because we're going to see that. I think Travis Hunter is definitely going to be like that. Kevin Coleman Jr. Like, we're talking about guys, even Wilkerson, their running back. I think that he was played at West Virginia. He came over there to the Tigers, 1,100 yards. He could be on his way over to Colorado. So we're going to see him fill around weapons. And that's what they did out there in Jackson State. And we saw Sanders be successful. I think, Bo, the biggest thing that you have to say about him is like his ability to kind of be a productive guy in that new offense with that offensive coordinator. I think Colorado fans should be very, very excited about this. And when you're looking at Colorado's schedule next year, I think things set up nicely. And I'm really rooting for him just as a prospect. I do think that he has some areas to improve on, but I do think that they're setting him up. And that's what all you can ask for with these college quarterbacks. Are they setting them up for success? And I think they will. And I think they're going to build around this kid. And for 2 years, you're going to see him he's going to produce at a high level, in my opinion. I think he can get to 3,000 yards passing. What is he going to be? I think the first year could be a little bit more of a struggle, but that second year, especially with USC and UCLA out of the Pac-12, we could be talking about Colorado making some real noise here. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe button for us. Hey, let us know what you think. Do you think the Sanders experiment is going to work in terms of Deion? I think it is. I think it's great for college football. I think it's great for Colorado. Do you think it is? And I think the one other highlight to mention is they're going to lessen the transfer rules there in terms of transfer eligibility for transfer portal. So he's going to get guys in there that Colorado just hasn't been able to do. And I think that's put him at a detriment in that program. Now we're going to see a Deion be able to do that. Shedeur is going to be very good for him in this program. So hit that like and subscribe button. Let us know how we're doing. We'll check you guys next time.